Hey, Trevor here, back in the kitchen for the Performance Wellness Team, New Hanover County Fire Rescue. I am firefighter Trevor Alger, and we are going to I'd like to do a series on do-it-yourself sauces and things like that, because we've talked a lot about choosing different sources of protein, not necessarily meat. We've talked about adding more vegetables and produce into your diet, and now we're going to talk about some of the preservatives that we can cut out of our diet by making our own sauces and using whole ingredients versus getting something that's prepackaged, pre-made, which will also have a lot of preservatives and things into it that you don't really want to be consuming. For instance, I'm going to use the Parmesan cheese for what we're making today. Is going to be a pesto sauce. And I'm going to grate my own Parmesan rather than getting the stuff that you can shake out in a bottle, because all that stuff, those pre-grated cheeses, have anti-caking elements in them. And I've mentioned that before. And not to mention the preservatives to keep them from molding, keep them from caking, all kinds of additives that you really don't want. You just want cheese. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to work on a pesto. I've got some basil here. We're going to put it on pasta. You can add in, I think the guys tonight have decided we're going to do some grilled chicken to add with it. You could do shrimp or pretty much any other protein if you wanted to do that, or you can just have it by itself. We are going to do pasta. I do recommend the pasta versus going with a spaghetti squash. I haven't tried pesto spaghetti squash. Maybe you'll try it and let me know how it is. We just got a little salt. Obviously, we got garlic. We're always adding our garlic. I've got some pine nuts here. You could use walnuts. We're going to toast those. I got some olive oil. I'm also going to hook them up with some garlic bread. We're going to make that ourselves as well versus buying the pre-made garlic bread. Got my trusty blender tool here, and I'll get started in just a minute. I'll show you what we're going to do to put this all together and make some homemade pesto. Okay, so we have got our pine nuts. I went ahead and I took the skin off about 6-7 cloves of garlic. We're going to make just a little hair more than the regular serving, because I'm serving 6 people and 6 hungry guys. So I want to make sure that I have enough. So what I'm doing right now is I'm toasting the pine nuts. You could use walnuts, but you still would want to toast them. It has a little bit different flavor. It's kind of like roasting garlic, but you don't want to overdo it. So you do have to kind of watch them. And I want to show you, see if you can see the color difference here. This is what they look like when they come out of the package. Pretty white. So when you're toasting them, you want to make sure they get all nice and golden brown. So we just keep them moving around. It's getting a little hot, so I'm probably not going to keep them on there much longer. So just move them around, get them toasty, golden brown. And then I've washed my basil and I'm letting it dry over here. And everything's going to go in the blender. So once you get all your ingredients prepped and ready, and you just put it in the blender, add a little oil, and you're ready to go. It's pretty simple. So that's why I'm saying you don't have to buy this stuff yourself. It's just as easy to make it, and it's 10 times better and better for you. So we'll go ahead and pull that off of there, turn my heat off, and we'll see you back over at the blender and we'll get the camera reset. Okay, so we've browned our nuts. We got about 1/4 cup of pine nuts. You can use walnuts, as I mentioned just a minute ago, but you can find these. Sometimes they have them over in the produce section where they chop up the fresh nuts, and you can buy like a pound of walnuts, chopped walnuts, or next to the salad dressings. They all have pine nuts right next to where the salad dressings are, right next to where the croutons are and the Hidden Valley packets. So I got about 1/4 cup, maybe a hair more, of our toasted pine nuts in there. 6 cloves of garlic. I went 7. Depends on the size of your garlic, but your taste profile will determine, do you want it a little bit heavier or a little bit lighter. I like it a little bit heavier. Same thing with your basil. The recipe, this is my grandmother's recipe, by the way. So it originally called for about 16 leaves. She may have had very large leaves. I like to use about 1.5 cups of the whole leaves, and everything's going to go in the machine so we don't have to chop anything up. So what I like to do, and some salt, and we need some of the cheese, but I'm going to start by doing it dry, and then we're going to add the oil afterwards. So if I can get my lid on here, And then for safety, we'll plug it in after we get the lid on. And we'll just, I'm just gonna pulse it a couple times. It doesn't take long, but your consistency, now this is still pretty chunky, and it will get more like a liquid once I add the oil. So that's your first portion of it. We'll add a little bit of oil and give it another couple of pulses here. And you just slowly incorporate it like that. Add a little oil, check your consistency, and give it a couple more pumps. So it's just back and forth like this until you get the exact consistency that you want. I'm pushing this down the walls of the blender so that my blades will do all the work for me. So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna we'll take a break when I finally get the consistency that I want, and then we'll move on to the next phase, and I'll also show you how to prep for homemade garlic bread. All right, so we're just finishing up getting it to the consistency that we wanted. We added about 6 tablespoons of what we have here is Parmesan a cheese that we grated ourselves, and like I had mentioned before, you're avoiding all those anti-caking preservatives and extras that you would normally get in the shake kind, the kind that's that you buy in the little plastic round container that everybody has. But you can save a lot more money and get a lot more for your buck. It is a little expensive. This was about $7 for a square of Parmesan, but I'll be able to use that for a lot of recipes that last a good bit longer than your bottled ones, and you're not putting preservatives into your system while we're doing that. So what I got here is a kind of a paste. As you can see here, it's a little bit sticky, but it makes a nice paste. And pesto is excellent. You can use on bread when you're making a sandwich, sub sandwich. I've put it on steak before. It makes a great base for pizza. Instead of doing a red sauce, you can use pesto sauce in place of that. In this case, we're going to do the most popular solution, which is just put it on pasta. What I chose was the rotini, or some people call them springs, because it has little voids in here where that pesto is going to get down in those voids, and you'll get a good pesto flavor on each and every bite of your pasta. We'll take a break here since this is pretty much ready. All we got to do is boil the pasta. When we're done with it, we'll pull it out of the water, put the pesto right on it, mix it up, and it's ready to go. So that's pretty much done. I'm going to chop some more garlic. I'll show you the quick and easy way to make your own garlic bread, and we'll be right back with that. Okay, so we're gonna finish up our pasta a little bit later on. The guys have decided to go ahead and add chicken breast to it tonight. A little salt, a little pepper, a little garlic powder. I think some Italian seasoning and a splash, just a pinch of cumin is what they chose to do that. We're gonna grill that. We'll add it to the pasta and the pesto a little bit later on. We'll come back and let you see the finished product, the final product. But also, what's gonna go good with this meal is a little garlic bread. It goes. Lots of people eat garlic bread with a lot of different types of cuisine, but I noticed that a lot of people buy the pre-made garlic bread, and that's just wrong. So I'm going to show you how to do this yourself. So I got me this is Italian or French loaf, so it's a nice soft bread. I didn't do the best job of cutting it in half here, but that's not going to change the game. So what we're going to do, I got about a half a stick of butter and about 2 tablespoons of chopped fresh garlic. You always want to use the fresh garlic. Don't buy the pre-chopped garlic in the oil. It just does not have the same flavor as fresh. So if you want to get the most out of your herbs and your seasonings, go ahead and take the time to do the fresh. So I melted it down in the microwave about 20 seconds, and then check it. You don't want to overcook your butter because it'll splatter and make a huge mess. So I'm just going to spoon this out and try to make it as even as I can over both pieces of bread here. So I've got a whole loaf I might even need to add more butter. So what I'm gonna do is just half a stick is pretty generous, and you're gonna notice that when you start eating this bread, and it'll soak down. The other good thing about the French or the Italian loaf is that it's got a lot of air holes and pockets and bubbles and stuff as it cooks, so there's a lot of nooks and crannies for the butter. And I'm gonna also add a little bit of olive oil that helps crisp up the bread when you're toasting it. So like I said, I'm gonna try and just make this even. I'm spooning it out. I got a good bit of garlic coming out with the butter as we spread it around, and we're almost out. Make sure I got about an even amount of garlic on both pieces here. As we get down to the bottom, you're gonna be pulling out more garlic. So that was about right. So about a half a stick, about 2 tablespoons of the chopped garlic. This is what I'm gonna do with the olive oil. Is I don't want it to come out too fast, so I use my thumb here to just get a trickle, and I'm gonna go around the perimeter of the bread, right on the crust line, to keep that from burning, and it'll crisp it up and keep it nice and tasty. And then I might zigzag back and forth across a couple times through the center. So I'm really just running the perimeter with the olive oil around the edge, just like that. And then a couple of zigzags through center. Okay. We'll add a little Italian seasoning. Again, all this is to your liking. If you like it with more butter and more garlic, by all means, that you're in control. That's another great thing about doing these things yourself. If you don't like it, maybe it gives you heartburn. You like the flavor, but it doesn't like you, then you can dial it back a little bit. Just whatever you prefer. And then last but not least, we're going to go back to our Parmesan, and we're going to grate a little bit on top of the bread. And I like to cook mine at about 350. Keep an eye on it, 10-12 minutes maybe. Depends on the actual temperature of your oven. And then right before I bring it out, when it looks like it's starting to toast on its own, then I'll throw it over to broil and give it a nice crisp on the top. But you're only going to do that for like a minute, maybe 2, and then get it out of there because you don't want to burn it. But it will put a nice crisp edge browning on the edges, and that cheese will melt down really nice, and this is going to be great. So I can't wait to show this to you later on, because that's as simple as it is. It doesn't get any easier than that, and it's going to be way better than any pre-made garlic bread that you can buy. Trust me. Okay, we're back. I think we're just about at the finish line here. Let's pull out our garlic bread real quick and take a look. That's what we want right there. Just a nice golden toasty hue. The cheese has melted down into it. I can still see a little bit of oil and butter lingering in some of those nooks and crannies we were talking about, and that's going to be amazing garlic bread. We'll get that chopped up in a minute. What I wanted to show you right here real quick was a little trick that I use. I've put the water way down low heat, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my measuring cup, and I'm going to get about, I don't know, maybe half a cup. Probably not going to use all that. What we're going to do is we're saving some of the starch water. We're going to add back into, you can do this with your spaghetti sauce, and you can do it with the pesto too, and it ends up making the sauce really creamy once you start to incorporate everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain this pasta real quick. All right. So I'll put the pot back on the heat. It's down really low. It's not super high. Okay. We're letting the pasta drain in the sink over there. I put maybe a tablespoon, maybe just a hair more, because we have a good bit of pasta in here. I'm using more than my average amounts. So what I'm going to take the pasta, put it back on the heat, right like that. Okay. So give that a stir. And then we're going to add some of our pesto, which that looks really good. I think I got a nice consistency of the pesto. And we'll just add a little bit at a time. Let it incorporate. Like I said, it's over the heat. And what you're doing by doing this is really getting, and see, I just put a little tiny bit of water in there, and we're gonna stir it up. And this incorporates the sauce with the pasta. The pasta will actually stick, or the sauce will stick to the pasta much better when you do this. Rather than pulling your pasta out and put it on the plate and then adding your sauce on top, whether it be spaghetti sauce or the pesto or anything like that, and then the sauce just sits on top of the pasta. To get the best flavor out of each bite of the pasta is to incorporate the sauce with the pasta. So that's why we do it this way. So, gonna add a little more pesto, maybe another little bit of water, and just keep mixing until we get it all in there. Just a little bit. You don't want it to be soupy, but that water will spread that sauce around nicely. I'm gonna mix it up. And meanwhile, our chicken is on the grill and should be done really soon. And like I said, it is up to your personal preference. More basil, less basil, more garlic, less garlic. I was telling somebody earlier, we were talking about sodium and salt. When you're doing it yourself, you can control the salt content, but if you're buying pre-made packages of seasonings and things like that, you want to be really cognizant and aware of, say you're making chili and you're just adding cans of beans and cans of tomatoes and everything. If you're not watching how much sodium is in each can you're adding, that's gonna increase your sodium content. So if you have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, or more specifically high blood pressure, and you're concerned about your salt intake, those are the types of things you're gonna need to be paying attention to. So we're gonna do an MTO that will help you better navigate some of those things. It'll keep you out of the danger zone. All right, so we got our pesto in there. I think I have enough water. And this, because I have such a large amount of pasta, you can't, I don't know if you can see the pesto on there. But, and again, using the springs, as some people like to call them, it gets that pesto down into every nook and cranny of, I don't know if you can see that really well, but it's a little dark. Maybe there. So, there you have it. A nice pot of pesto pasta, fresh homemade garlic. We were able to control our ingredients. We used the fresh stuff, the good stuff, and it's as simple as that. So, please take the time to spend a little more time in the kitchen doing this for yourself, for your family. Stay safe, be healthy. We'll see you next time. Well, there you have it. There's your finished product. We got grilled chicken, homemade pesto on spiral pasta, and fresh homemade garlic bread. Sure to please any discerning palate. So please enjoy, try this at home, share it with your neighbors, and we'll see you next time.